Okay, so let's go here to Tim, and he says, time to sell, AJ Preller.
Well, if this thing becomes 12 games back or 15 games back, because as John and I talked about last weekend, this 10-game roadie is tough. And when they come home, aren't very many cream puffs to be played. They come home, they get the Pirates, who are dead in the water now, but they get first place Texas, and then they get near first place Baltimore. And then they got to go play the Dodgers 4 in a row. Granted, they do get 7 with Arizona, which is wilting in the heat of the pennant race and the heat on the pavement in downtown Phoenix. But if they're 12, 15 back, what do? Are you a seller? Do you move Soto? Do you move Hader? What kind of message does it send to the people? They're averaging 40,000 plus per game who bought all those season tickets. If you're selling it out, you think these people are going to come back? Tough call.
It is a tough call, but I think the right move now is to sell. It's just to accept reality, because we keep thinking we live in a different reality where the Padres are good, like we thought they would be in the beginning of the year. But this is just such a disaster. And in Kevin Acey's column in the UT, he was commenting about how after that game on Sunday, Manny Machado just looked spent. He looked exhausted, because they're trying so hard to fix it and nothing's working. So I wonder if you just have to accept that reality, trade off Snell, Hader, maybe Soto, and then kind of regroup for next year.
Yeah, but you're not going to regroup with the same team and the same potential, because if you're trading established major leaguers, and Soto has played much better the last couple of months than he did the first 2. I just don't know. They gave up 5 top prospects, including Mackenzie Gore, to get Soto. I don't know that you're going to get 5 prospects by putting Soto there. And if you do, you're creating a huge hole in your batting order and in left field. And who the hell's going to be your closer? Don't tell me Robert Suarez. You got to make sure he can pitch an inning
right,
without having a flare up in his elbow. It's just a really complex mosaic now that they have to navigate through.
Isn't it amazing, though, that at the beginning of the year, we were so optimistic. We said, oh, this lineup is deep, and they're going to have to pitch to the guys 7th and 8th and 9th in line. They're going to get strikes to hit. And oh my God, the starting 5 looks great. We had too many starters. Those guys are going to be great relievers. We've got Suarez and Hader on the back end. We have too many resources. We have too much talent. How are we going to fit them all on the roster? And now look where we are now. It's just like, it doesn't make sense.
No, it's the word of the day on Sesame Street is fanatics. Fans are fanatics.
That's right.
We all bought it. We all believed it based on paper. We all thought it. Hasn't worked that way. Okay, he says sell off. Next question.
Okay, here's one from SG Sports Channel. And he says, I'm real excited about the 49ers preseason football, which starts in just 3 weeks.
Well, we're going to start doing more and more NFL stuff pretty quickly here on our Thursday and podcast and our Monday bonus packages, because camps are opening within the next week. I mean, I think San Francisco is loaded. They are loaded at wide receiver. They're obviously got the greatness of Christian McCaffrey, phenomenal offensive line, rugged, take no prisoner defensive front. And the burning question, obviously, is can they keep the quarterback on the field, and who is going to win the starting quarterback job? But we'll talk more NFL football as we go forward. San Francisco's elite in the NFC, but then again, the AFC's got Kansas City and the Super Bowl trophy and all that. It'll be fun, but we'll deal a lot more NFL going forward.
Yeah, I think we're anxious to see how that whole quarterback situation works out with the 49ers. But people are hungry for NFL content. We posted that vertical video about John Gruden, wanting to burn down the NFL. And boy, that lit up Instagram. So the fans are hungry for NFL content.
Be here Thursday, be here Monday. We will talk more NFL football as we march on, John.
Okay, lots more Padres comments here from the fans. Here's one from John Hopkins. Hate to say it, but it's time to sell for the Padres. Get some chemistry guys, and not necessarily guys who tell you to check their baseball card stats.
Yeah, and guys who look at their teammates and, I got my money. Did you get yours?
Yeah.
That's a terrible thing to say, but it's so weird. This team just does not fit together. This team does not seem to have, quote, lineup chemistry that makes things happen. You sat there and you watched that game with the Phillies. And I've told you, I look at the Padre batting order, and it'd scare the crap out of me if I put a guy on base, and all of a sudden, here comes the Fab Four. You got to pitch these guys. But the Padres don't produce. What Philadelphia do? Holy cow, every time Bryce Harper came to the plate, You feared he was going to launch it.
Yeah, and he did.
Yeah. And every time that left fielder came to the plate, you knew he would launch it because he launched a bunch of them in that game.
Oh, yeah.
So there's something missing. It's just weird. You look at Philadelphia's batting order, and they can hurt you, and they do hurt you. And the Padres, with rare exception, don't hurt you. And again, I'm going crazy. Throw cold water on me if you need to. But how can you be 0-9 in extra innings, where every extra inning starts with a ghost runner at second base, and you got the Fab Four at the top of the order, and you can't drive home that ghost runner and win a game in extra? How is that humanly possible? No more conversation from me.
Yeah, none of this makes sense. But Manny Machado insisted that there's no bad chemistry, that they all get along and they're friends. But you're doubting that. You kind of rolled your eyes. Do you think maybe that there's something going on?
Well, I think we talked about it a couple of weeks ago. I think there's problems dugout, Bob Melvin, to upstairs, the analytic guys. I think there's a huge problem there. But the chemistry has to come from players too. Look at the exciting 15 minutes we had with the Sombrero Sluggers and how cool that was. Think about last year in the drive to the playoffs, how that dugout ignited, and there was a special chemistry there. You can wear your swag chain. Maybe that's going to change things. But to me, it's missing. It's MIA. I just don't understand it.
Okay, we got a couple more here. Guys really want to vent. Here's Manny. He says, can the Padres really afford more payroll with their current TV deal?
I think it's a big issue. We've talked about it extensively. Nobody's written about it. We talked about it extensively when they lost the $60 million payday from Bally Sports, Diamond Sports, etc. I just don't think they make up that money going forward. Now, I have no doubt the gross revenue of the Padres, that what they're getting because of what they're charging, ticket-wise, food-wise, jerseys, hoodies, etc., they're going to have volume revenue coming in the front door this year. But they don't have $60 million as the anchor to pay the big money contracts. I'd be concerned just about that as to what the structure of their finances are going to be. If this turns out to be a crap season, if they don't make the playoffs, you think 24,000 season ticket holders are going to renew?
Yeah, no way.
At increased prices? lost in all the conversation. Nobody's written about this. They raised their ticket prices a combined 38% the last 2 years, 18% one year, 20% the next year, with the premise and the idea, we're going to sign players and we're going to win. Well, they signed them. They charged you money for it, and they haven't won yet. It's a tough disappointment. Holy cow.
Well, I think they're going to get some replacement revenue for the lost Bally's deal, but they're not going to get the full $60 million a year. But yeah, to your point, you wonder about the season ticket renewals, because how many sellouts have they had this year? It's been like 20 something.
Oh, it's record setting.
Yeah. And imagine how disappointed those folks are. And, when you roll in a family of four, you're dropping a big chunk of change. So it's just been so difficult. I mean, thank goodness Petco is still a fun place to go. Yep. And there's all that energy and electricity, even if the team comes up short. But that can only last so long.
Concur. We got a couple more here. Want to fire us questions?
Okay, here's another one. Again, people just venting about the Padres. From Emmanuel, he says, Padres need to trade Soto and Hader. At this point, the season is over, especially if the Diamondbacks and Dodgers land their trade targets.
All right, here's what I'll tell you. Later tonight, because I'm in the process of writing a column on my website, my One Man's Opinion column, about what I think the Padres must do, simultaneously what I think the Dodgers will do, and then thirdly, what I think the Angels are going to do. If you like baseball, and it's obvious by the fact that people have just overwhelmed us on Fans Forum with baseball questions, go to my website later tonight. I posted later in the evening. It'll be there tonight, probably by 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock. It'll be there tomorrow morning. Go to leehacksawhamilton.com. And you can always respond on my email. I have an email link that goes from my website to John's house, back to my house, into my email address. You can always respond. But read my columns are extensive, and they're really, really unique and different, as witnessed by the response I got this past week when I wrote about the death of newspapers. And that'll be another topic on the table we're going to do a roundtable discussion on. But you trade Soto, you trade Hader, giving up on the season, bad message to the organization. And is that not an indictment of the general manager and his methodology?
Yeah.
Big issue.
Well, it seems like Peter Seidler really likes A.J. Preller.
Yep.
Okay. But how long is that going to continue?
Called them
Especially,
excellence. Hasn't won bleep with the exception of one series against the Dodgers last October.
Mhm. Yeah. So this is a really tough spot, but I think the Padres are going to have to make some adjustments. I do want to comment about your website and all the writing because we think of you as the voice of the Chargers. We think of you as the voice of Mighty 690 and 1090. We don't really think of you as a writer, but your writing is actually very good.
I tend to think so.
Yeah. I mean, you do a really good job with that. And I can see how the way you work, because you really gather your thoughts and you're able to put together a nice column. And then a lot of that content comes out here in the podcast.
You are right. I am bleeping brilliant. Thank you. Okay, let's move on. A couple more on Fans Forum.
Yeah, you talked about lineup chemistry with the Padres. So let's get Tom's question involved. He says, I'm relatively new to the baseball world. Since Soto's OPS is almost 900, actually, I think it's more than that. Why have they never placed him first at bat?
Well, because he's a power bat, in addition to be a guy that gets a ton of walks. OPS is on base percentage, whether that's singles or bases on balls, coupled with slugging percentage. And if you want Soto there to produce to his max effort, you would probably push him back in the lineup with the hope you're going to get guys in front of him on base, and then he goes yard and drives home 2 or 3 runs. Surely didn't happen at the beginning of the season. Holy cow, what a mechanical mess he was. Has gotten progressively better. He's hitting balls on frozen ropes now and line drives, home runs, etc. So he's kind of in sync for the most part. But that's a quick answer as to why you don't bat him leadoff. Because he does get on base, but you'd rather have him hit with Tatis and somebody else in front of him on base.
Well, I think the other part of the story is that he was, so I've heard through the grapevine that he was kind of pissy about batting 1 or even 2 because he wants to be a 3 or a 4 guy because he wants to get the ribbies so he can have a bigger numbers and make a bigger deal when his contract is up.
Sure, exactly. Everything is interrelated here. The bottom line is dollar bills.
Okay, let's go to some of the social media comments because there are a ton of these as well. And let's talk about the Clippers. I think this is a good one. This is from Rafi on Instagram. He said, I would pull a 360 and get rid of both of them. Talking about Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. If I sign them, I'm trying to trade them somewhere else. Both are damaged goods, and you would have to be a goofball GM to sign both on the wrong side of 30 for 40 or more years. And before you respond, I just want to say, doing a 360 is one of those things that people say it the wrong way. It's a 180 if you want to turn around.
Whirly Bird.
Okay.
He's making reference to what we talked about last week about the Clippers and what they are going to do. This Wednesday, the NBA window opens in which teams can negotiate max contracts with their stars. And Kawhi Leonard, Paul George headed into the final year of their contract. The max contract they could get would be 4 years, $220 million. Those are 2 phenomenal players, but those are 2 players that have had a lot of injuries in the last 3 years. I went back and counted 308 games the Clippers have played over the last 4 seasons, 308. Mm-hmm. Those guys have missed 266 games combined. Oh my Kawhi's God. Had 3 surgeries on his right knee. He's just underwent another one in the offseason for cleanup of the knee. Before that, it was a torn ligament. Before that, it was the devastating quad injury. He's breaking down. Paul George has had 3 different injuries, all of them fluke, torn elbow ligament when a guy ran into him, knee injury, back injury, hip injury. I think between them, they've had 7 different injuries in LA in the last couple of years. So the burning question for the Clippers organization, you like these guys, you traded for these guys, you think these guys could get you to the championship level, but they can't stay on the floor. Now, you're going to max them 4 years, 220 going forward after this season? Phenomenal amount of money. I don't know that I would do it. They owe you another year. If they go out and if they get hurt again, their value goes down and maybe you sign them for a different extension. From a business standpoint, as great an owner as Steve Ballmer is, and by the way, in his spare time, he's building a new arena near the old Great Western Forum. As good an owner as he is, you gotta have some common sense here about the economics. I would not max offer anybody, those 2 guys, at this point. I want to see what the season's like because you have a window. It opens Wednesday, but it goes into next season. You can offer the max anywhere. And the NBA rules are structured. You get bigger money in-house as a max guy And then if they would become free agents and go outside, the dollar value to go to a different team is less than the max contract offer. So that's what I would do. I wouldn't offer them right now. I'd talk, express interest, but say, we got a season to play. I want to see how the season plays out.
Yeah, this is a tough call for Steve Ballmer. But when we do those verticals and I kind of put the videos together, I went looking for some video clips of Kawhi and Paul George on the court at the same time.
Few and far between.
I couldn't find any at Giphy.com. So it just tells you that they're not together. And so again, it's like the Padres situation. You just have to accept reality. And the reality is those two guys are hurt all the time and it's not working. So you've got to make some changes. So I think you got to pick one or the other. I mean, which one would you want to keep and which one would you send away?
I don't think at this point in time, Kawhi's got much trade value. PG might. Paul George has been shopped. Teams have expressed interest. There was rumor going into the draft, Paul George, Miami, Paul George, New York Knicks. Deal has not come. But then the question, do you get fair value for a guy that's a walk free agent with an injury history attached to his resume? Is he of more value to you one good year with him and Kawhi if they can both stay healthy? Maybe you're a championship round team. If you trade him, you're probably not. And you're getting equal value by trading him at this point in time. Tough call.
Yeah, it's a tough one here. We got some more social media comments. Let's get some other people involved. Oh yeah, this is the whole John Gruden thing was lighting up over the last few days. And this is from DM Anderson. He says, Goodell is an A-hat. I hope Gruden destroys him. There are a lot of people on social media that are in Camp Gruden on this whole deal.
Well, I think it's the end thing in the world is to bury the commissioner. I don't care whether your name is Roger Goodell or it was David Stern or Adam Silver or Gary Bettman or Rob Manfred. All those guys take a lot of abuse. I'm not sure it's all fair, but that's the perspective that fans who pay the price tag have on these guys. Somebody leaked these emails. Now, I don't know whether it was Daniel Snyder, whether it was Goodell, whether it was the union chief who was slurred by John Gruden, DeMaurice Smith. Somebody leaked these, and it was intentional. They didn't just get out. But I guess the factor I don't understand, why would the league, with the reputation that they have, the shield as they call it, the amount of money that they are making, the most successful business in the world, why would they ever risk doing something like that? I don't care whether you like Gruden or not. You can expel Gruden from the league. Look what he did. Look what he wrote in those emails. And what bothers me is as dynamic as an X and O's guy as Gruden can be, and as fiery as he can be, as good as a TV analyst, fun guy to listen to, he wrote junk that was really distasteful. And that to me meant it was in his heart. Mm-hmm. And what does it say about the person when they write that stuff? I may be bleeping brilliant as a talk show host, but if I write a bunch of bad tweets or I write venomous columns that are fabricated or irresponsible, what kind of person am I? He wrote junk that I firmly believe was in his heart. And that's what really disappoints me because he was a pretty popular guy.
Well, do you think it's just like Raider Nation and we're nihilists? We just want to burn the whole thing down. They just want to see death and destruction and roadkill on the side of the road. I mean, it's pretty crazy. I mean, because you can't defend what Gruden said. Yeah, you might have a beef with Goodell, but I don't know how in the heck you could be on Team Gruden on this thing.
So I concur with you. Let's move on. Next question.
Okay, so let's go here and talk about the Oakland situation. This is from Togo and Moss about the A's maybe playing in San Francisco. He says, Oakland did not support the team when they were winning. Look back 20 years. They have never been higher than number 19 in attendance and usually number 26 or lower. It's not a sports city anymore. Losing all four major sports would be all the proof anybody needs. Fisher will probably sell, but would be crazy to before the team triples in value in Las Vegas.
Well, I think the big issue here is Oakland is economically disadvantaged. I think it's a dying city. It's been passed, obviously, in industry. It's been passed by Silicon Valley. It's been totally set aside by the growth of downtown San Francisco. And the Athletics have been plagued by really bad ownership. I'll give you a quick history lesson. They were owned by a great baseball man, Connie Mack, when they were the Philadelphia Athletics. And he did not have money. And they played at Old Shibe Park. And he sold off his stars twice, Jimmy Fox and other great Hall of Famers. and they moved to Kansas City, and they weren't well financed in Kansas City, and they became the joke when baseball was they became a farm club for the New York Yankees because every time there was a good prospect in Kansas City, he wound up at Yankee Stadium. You've heard the name Roger Maris, have you not?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Charlie Finley bought them. He moved them to Oakland, and they built through the farm system. And as strange a guy as Charlie O was, he had good baseball people. And they got to the World Series, and they had Reggie Jackson, and they had Sal Bando and Joe Rudy. I mean, well, you were there.
Yeah.
You know, you were
Campy
screaming.
Campaneris.
That's right.
Oh, yeah.
But at the end of the day, he decided, I'm getting rid of these players. I'm not going to pay these players this kind of money. Now, he got into war with Bowie Kuhn, the commissioner, and the commissioner blocked him multiple times. And then Charlie finally gave up the fight and sold the franchise. And then they've gone through all these different small money owners, and now you got John Fisher. It's just it's a horrific situation, and the market has decayed around them. You know, the inner city of Oakland is terrible. The educational system in Oakland is terrible. It's just a bad marketplace at this point in time. Could they have flourished if they had been allowed to move to San Jose and build a stadium, or move to the Silicon Valley, or move to Sacramento? Now, the Giants blocked them under the territorial rules. So that's why that stuff did not happen. But I don't think there's any way out. They're going to go to Las Vegas. But I guess the burning question, is this a good owner? Is John Fisher a good owner? Is he strictly an entrepreneur profiteer who owns a franchise and gets all this revenue sharing money, et cetera? So, but that's 3 years down the road. So there's going to be some misery, still misery. I feel so bad for Mark Kotsay. You and I talked about this before. He's a manager of a team that's 25-70 right now, and just no hope at all.
That's brutal.
Yeah.
Just looking at the social media comments, the fans are really angry with Fisher. Everyone's upset with this guy. But how long has Oakland Coliseum had those tarps on the upper deck, like all the way around?
Well, that was built for Al Davis and the Raiders, and then Al Davis left, and the Oakland A's were playing baseball in a badly designed football stadium. And then the product wasn't very good. And it's just everything that could happen as a negative happened as a negative in the Bay Area. And it's too bad. I mean, if you go back and watch the movie Moneyball, you think about all the great players that played in Oakland for a chunk of time. And then Billy Beane tried to reinvent it and had some success, but never got to the World Series. Okay, let's do one or two more here on Fans Forum.
Okay, let's talk about Coach Prime. This is from Pretty Boomer. It says, gentlemen, Coach Prime stated in previous videos that this was partially due to an old NFL injury to his toes, and he had been dealing with the pain for years. The blood clots were discovered while he was coaching at Jackson State, after which he learned from his mom that a few of the older family members had previously dealt with the same. I hope that helps with some of the questions. He even partially addressed it in his interview with Shannon Sharp. Nice podcast. I respect how nicely you address the health issue, as not every host does so in a classy and respectful way.
Well, thank you. I did not know extensively about family issues, whether it's diabetes or blood clots. There was a scare here for about 3 weeks where there was actual thought that they might have to amputate his leg just because the blood clots were so bad. And they've amputated a couple of toes already. I think there's still a fear that there may have to be more. I think he's accepted his life circumstances. So we'll get him healthy. He'll get to camp in August, and he functioned very well despite being, quote, in recovery from surgeries while he was at Jackson State. But I know they're so excited in Boulder, and they're sold out Folsom Field, and they're so amped. It's such a new team, such a different team. I think it's going to be a hard season because I think when you make as many changes, 62 out of 72 players are new to the program. It just takes time to build it. And even though he reaped what he thought as a bonanza of guys in the transfer portal, there's a lot of people in college football that are pissed off that he used the transfer portal to dump all those bodies out in the street. So it'll be interesting to see what kind of team he puts on the field and how he copes with it if it turns out to be a 2-10 football team.
Well, I think it might be the first year or two, but I'm rooting for him. I think the world of him, and I think what he accomplished at Jackson State and just the whole energy he brings. And yeah, he used that transfer portal and blew out a ton of guys, but They only they won one game last year. I mean, they had to make radical changes. Can we fit a few more questions in?
Two more.
Two more. Okay, there's a soccer comment from Maka2, and he says, above all, Christian Pulisic hates to miss Champions League. Everyone on that Chelsea team was wise to get out of the dumpster fire.
They've bled a lot of players in this offseason. I just don't know what Chelsea's ownership, which is led by an American, Todd Bowley, minority owner in the Dodgers, I don't understand what their business model is going forward, unless they're letting the coach dictate all the player personnel moves. But, Pulisic's stay in Chelsea was as a young player, learning on the job, which is really hard because that's the most elite soccer league there is in the world. And then he had a lot of nagging injuries. So we'll see what it's like when he goes to AC Milan. We're biased because he wears the red, white, and blue.
Mm-hmm.
We're biased because we have seen an 18-year-old grow into a leader and a man at age 24. He's produced here for our USA World Cup team, but obviously he has not produced with any consistency because he wasn't in the lineup on the field with any consistency, and he was hurt a bunch, which impacted his consistency playing for Chelsea. So we'll see where it goes. 2026, can't get here quick enough for me as it relates to U.S. World Cup soccer. And by the way, a side comment, Thursday, Women's U.S. World Cup starts in Australia and in New Zealand, and Team USA plays, I think it's Vietnam. This will be the final go-round for Megan Rapinoe. And obviously, you got Alex Morgan and all the newcomers who have talks of Women's World Cup. I think it's aired here Friday. It's actually Saturday down under, but the game will be aired here Friday on Fox. I'm so excited to see that.
Yeah, that's going to be a lot of fun to watch. But imagine Pulisic, go back to him for a minute. Let's say he's on AC Milan and they win their league and they go to the Champions Cup, and his team ends up beating some of the Premier Leagues from Britain. Wouldn't that be great?
Oh, well, he's got to score a pile of goals for that to happen. But
yeah.
It is interesting. There's so many players that have moved this summer. The big money in the English Premier League is just changed everything. There's so many quality guys. We've talked a little bit about Harry Kane, who's a great goal scorer, record-setting goal scorer for Tottenham Hotspur, another elite team in the English Premier League. Harry Kane is now in the middle of a bidding war between Bayern Munich and suddenly Paris Saint-Germain in France has stepped up and put a wad of cash on the table. And there's been so much player movement. EPL guys to Saudi Arabia, EPL guys going to other EPL teams being stolen in free agency. So English Premier League is kind of like baseball free agency now in the NFL draft. Boy, they are moving.
Yeah, and I think there's been Messi sightings in grocery stores in Florida.
Yes.
So let's get this one more question in. And this is, we were talking about maybe the possibility of a daily dose of Hacksaw. And Bryce Dixon says, do it, Hacksaw. I called your show as a 9-year-old and talked about the Bruce Hurst trade with you.
We get so many people I cross paths with. I can't go anywhere in the community, and it's great. I can't go anywhere without people stopping me and wanting to do a talk show.
Oh, yeah.
And it's, my two surgeons are both longtime listeners and podcast freaks, and they're texting me and messaging me all the time. We're talking about it. I don't know where this conversation is going to go. I'm sorry, with apologies. You have to be paid to do stuff. I don't want to do stuff for free. So we'll see where it goes. But full disclosure, I'm just going to say this because I don't talk about my personal life. John knows about it because he and I text all the time as best friends. Within the last calendar week, now I was away on holiday at my cottage, and those of you who watch the podcast saw me do my thing from the Adirondacks in upstate New York near the Canadian border. In 1 week's time, hotel reservations canceled, 2 flights home canceled, came home, cataract surgery on my eye, came home, sprinkler system blew up, came home, air conditioning broke, took me 3 days to get that fixed, came home, wife's car quit, came home, microwave blew up. All that from last Saturday to where we are here the following Monday. Just
unbelievable.
Absolutely, absolutely amazing. But I showed up for work. I'm playing hurt. I can't see straight. Mouth hurts. Oh, and I forgot to add root canal. That's coming next.
Okay.
All this week.
Geez.
Yes, it was a crap week, but we're here talking sports. So for him to say You need to go back on the air every day.
Yeah.
I'll take that under advisement. I'll have my people call your people.
Okay. Well, we got to get you like $100 million contract, like a lot of these ball players are getting, to sign you up, because the fans would love to hear you every day. But, doing it as a podcast, that's a full-time gig.
A lot of research. And by the way, check my website. You will like what I write. If you're a baseball fan, check my website later tonight, my One Man's Opinion column. Hey, we really enjoy doing this. We thank you for being part of our bonus podcast on Monday. Of course, we have a regular podcast on Thursday. Make sure